like, don't say it's because we're overspending or this or that. Now he's trying to demagogue energy companies. He ran saying he was going to shut down energy production in this country. That's what he said. He said no more fossil fuels. He came into office and did this huge executive order that basically shut down things like Anwar and Keystone and all these other things. And so this is the policy that he pursued. And now he's lashing out because people are upset that this has been a failed policy. But the reality is a lot of what we're seeing has been self-inflicted by really bad policies. You also have the printing of money and all that they've done. And he's saying, don't say that we're spending too much money or printing too much money. But, you even have Obama's economists all come out and say that that was a huge mistake to print trillions of dollars when you already had unemployment where it was, and it led to the inflation that we see. And the inflation, they'll say 8.6%. It did accelerate, which is bad, but it's much higher than 8.6%, because the things that really matter, they count the way they count it. Some of the things that are below 8.6%, that doesn't affect. Like, we don't buy any of that, really. Most people don't do it. The things that you actually do, like going to the grocery store, going to the gas station, all that, way higher than 8.6%. And so that's just the reality. This is the fruits of some really bad decisions. And there's nothing wrong with just admitting you were wrong and reversing course. I don't think he'll do that, but that's really what you have to do. And the thing is the releasing barrels of oil from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve, that is not an energy policy, okay? That's a political move trying to CYA so people don't blame you as much, although they do blame him because they're smart. But that's all that is. That is not a solution. And honestly, he's drawing that down. If we did have something else happen, we may need to actually use that for other things, and we may not have the capacity at that point. So very, very reckless to be doing that. It has not made a dent in the price at all, because this is much larger than just that. So it's been really, really head scratching. But this is having a huge impact on people. The Fed's going to raise interest rates again, probably. That's going to slow the economy down. They're probably going to continue to do it. So we're dealing with, in Florida, we actually manage our budget well. We don't overspend. We have a big surplus. We have low taxes. And we're doing it right, and we're prepared for what Biden throws at us. But it's just so frustrating because people get it. They understand that this is not good policy. It's not good direction. But yet they continue to want to dig deeper and deeper. And it's going to have not just what we're dealing with now. It's likely to persist with the energy, given current posture. It's going to start impacting food security and all these other things. And I hope I'm not right on this, but if I had to bet, I would bet you're going to see more shortages and things as we get down the road. And so we're working hard in Florida to do it right, but we do have to just point out that in D.C. they're getting it wrong. And a lot of people are worse off as a result of doing that. I also, look around at, they weren't providing the security for the Supreme Court. Now, finally, they voted for it, but they held off on it for a long time. You've got mobs that are out there trying to basically change outcomes of decisions, and that's just wrong in terms of what is appropriate. And I just don't understand why that would not be something they would want to speak out about in making sure that doesn't happen. So very, very disappointing to see them drag their feet on that. And in Florida, that's not the way we think that we should be doing business. Now, one of the reasons we're here today actually goes back to other Biden policies. When he came into office, he decided to impose a COVID vax mandate on the U.S. military. And you had a situation where some of these, most people in our military are the lowest of the lowest risk for COVID to begin with. Many of them had already had COVID and had recovered, in 2020 into 2021, and yet he imposed these mandates on that. And that has had the impact of actually kicking people out who had served honorably, who just decide that this is not what they want to do. Now, they'll say, well, everyone's got to do it, but the thing is, it doesn't prevent you from getting infected. And so, people are doing, and actually they have now data that shows some of the areas where there's a high prevalence of booster shots being done has actually even more infections than less booster shots. So for the military to have done that, I mean, Biden's making them do it, but you're kicking out really good people. It is not helping good order and discipline. It's hurting good order and discipline when you marginalize people who have done it right and worked hard and sacrificed themselves for our country. And so seeing that, how bad that was something we didn't want to be a part of, but then also fighting the mandates on private employers. We protected all the police officers, firefighters, everybody in the corporations in Florida. You have protection. You can make your own decision on that. And we've saved tens of thousands of jobs just for what we did last year when we did a special session. So we've been very keen on this, but we also looked and said, okay, you're going to have people that are they're processing out like Navy SEALs who have done really good stuff. They're processing people out, pilots, all this other stuff. And so there's opportunities where people are still want to serve, but they want to serve based on their conscience on that issue. So we saw that. We said, well, where are they going to go? It'd be nice to have a spot for them. But then we also looked at our National Guard, and we have one of the lowest guardsmen to citizen ratios. I think of 54 between the territories and the states. So there's 54 total that have guards. We're 53 out of 54 amongst U.S. states and territories for guard to citizen ratio. And so I think we used to have like 5 million people in the state, and you had that. Now we have 22 million people plus, and many more visit, and yet our guard hasn't kept up on that. The problem is that those billets are controlled by Washington. So if you want to have more guardsmen, you have to have the federal government actually give you more billets. And that's been a fight that's been going on for a long time, and it just hasn't been something that Congress has been willing to do, and or the executive branch has been willing to do. Now, maybe that'll happen. But in the meantime, we saw an opportunity to say, we don't want to have military imposing some of this stuff with the vax. We understand there's going to be people that may be out of work, and we need more support because we have hurricanes, we have people in need, we have things that require response, and our National Guard does a lot. They will respond to hurricanes. They did a lot with COVID, distributing supplies, helping the nursing homes, doing all these different things. And Biden can come in and take them and send them to different places. So anytime they're around the world, that's the federal government coming in and plucking our National Guardsmen and sending them around the world. And so, we only have limited capacity at that point. And so we thought it would be important to expand that. And the easiest way to expand it was to restart something that we had in this state for a long time, our own Florida State Guard. And so that's what we're doing. And so, the Florida State Guard will be comprised of Floridians, and it will be designed to assist and help only Floridians. It will not be subject to be mobilized by the federal government, and the federal government cannot impose policies or penalties on the Florida State Guard. And so now, Florida will join over 20 other states and territories that currently have their own state guard, including states like New York. But when we announced this, this was not something that necessarily certain media would check, and so they made it sound like this was something unique in American history, and they were basically saying that, like, Governor DeSantis is raising an army to raise the countryside, like NBC and all these things. So they were trying to make this out and whatever, so they're doing their thing. The thing is all they did was give free advertising for it. And so people are like, oh man, I want to join the Florida State Guard. We're really excited about it. And so we had initially proposed $3.5 million to start it, but the interest was so significant that we actually ended up doing $10 million from the legislature. So it'll be $10 million. We're going to be able to start. So we've already had more than 1,200 people apply to be able to join the Florida State Guard. The money will be available when the new fiscal year starts on July 1st, but that shows you like really, really strong demand that people want to do. And so we're excited about it. We're excited that the legislature provided us this support. And I think it's going to make a big difference because, we've got huge amount of talent in our state. And we've got a lot of people that have great skills. Unfortunately, there are going to be some people who did not necessarily want to leave active duty military service who are now going to find themselves in other states. But I think Florida's the state that most people want to be in when they leave the military. So they're going to be here. So you'll be able to offer that as well. And really, it's going to be a force multiplier for our state. The thing is there's hurricanes. I mean, we've had hurricane situations where hurricanes have hit multiple parts of the state. So you may have to have guard one place, but you may have to have others somewhere else. Same thing when you had prospects of rioting 2 years ago. We've got a big state. Some states, it's like they have one major urban area and then the rest is more rural. We've got a bunch of different areas, and so you want to be able to provide support so that you can maintain rule. So there's a whole bunch of different things, reason why having this will be a real force multiplier. It'll help us, and you guys have all watched these storms. Sometimes they'll go this way, that way, and so you may think it's going to be southern Florida, and then it turns out it's northwest Florida. You may think it's one place and it's the other. So we're going to be, I think, very nimble with this. I think it's going to be something that's going to be really, really good, and we're really excited about it. We here today with what we're doing is also reminding people you can still apply. The funding will start July 1st, and so as people are training and everything, signing up, it's not going to be take all comers. You got to be qualified, and you got to have the ability to do the job, but you are going to get paid to do it, and it was important that the legislature did it. We'll have some permanent people that are going to run it more administratively, but then we'll have folks, as they drill, then they get stipend. But if you want to be able to apply, you can go to flsg.myflorida.com to apply today. That's flsg.myflorida.com to be able to apply today. And so we're really looking forward we're happy that so many people have been interested in this, and we think we're going to have even more interest now that we've signed the budget and the money is official and will be available very shortly. So one of the reasons why we're here today is to remind people of that, but also to announce that we do have selected the next director of the Florida State Guard. And so I have him with me here today, retired Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Chris Graham. And Director Graham's a native Floridian. He started out as an enlisted Marine, worked his way up the ranks, served as an officer for 20 years, earned a Purple Heart along the way in 2005. He's been a helicopter pilot. He served 3 tours in Iraq. He's been a special projects officer and created the model for the anti-terrorism battalion companies, including their pre-deployment training and their standard operating procedures for close quarters battle and personal security detail operations, which those are very significant high levels of training. He's also led the first anti-terrorism company to go through the Israel Defense Forces counterterrorism school, and he worked in the Defense Intelligence Agency. He participated in counter-drug operations to crack down on the flow of drugs into our country from south of the border. Don't we need more of that now with everything that's going on in the border? I mean, it's unbelievable the amount of drugs that are coming across the border. We now have a situation where the leading cause of death in the United States from 18 to 45 is fentanyl overdose. And it's almost all coming through the southern border, with the cartels really just eating our lunch every single day, and Biden just letting them do it without any change in policy or any leadership being shown. So Director Graham had been in the reserve component of the U.S. Marine Corps, recently retired there. And so this is a really good timing. to be able to take the reins of this. He lives in Northwest Florida, in the Destin area, and I think he's the right man for the job. So I'm going to let him come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Governor DeSantis. Thank you very much for your, actually first, thank you for being the governor of Florida. I appreciate that. Thank you for your trust and confidence in this position. I think this is a very sensitive position. This is a time where we all face a lot of challenges. I want to do my part. I want to help however I can. It's an honor to be selected for this position, so thank you for that. I started out, like you mentioned, down in South Florida. I grew up in Miami, went to high school in Miami, enlisted in the Marines out of Miami, and when I left active duty, I always intended to get back to South Florida. I'm up in the Panhandle now, enjoy that too. Happy to be there, but the last thing I did Marine Corps-wise was command of 4th Anglico down in Palm Beach. So I'm happy to be here. I'm grateful to be here. I think this unit has a particularly important mission. As Floridians, you guys know the last hurricane's behind us, the next hurricane's on the horizon. Anything we can do to help, I want to help. As this functions as a state defense force also, I want to build in whatever capabilities are constructive and helpful in that regard too. It's my honor to be here. I appreciate that. And please keep in mind, like the governor said, we've got 1,200 applicants, 400 seats, but it's my goal that every single person in Florida that wants to help, that wants to be available in need, that wants to serve on Governor DeSantis' team, reaches out and applies. I want to make contact with all you guys. I want to be in touch with all you guys. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working for you. Thank you, guys.
And I think because folks have been really excited about this, I think the 10 million we got, I think it's just going to be the beginning. I think the legislature is going to be looking to expand these slots next legislative session. So if there's folks that apply and there's not enough slots now, you very well, that could change very quickly. And so stay with it, and we want to be able to find a spot for you. Okay, Jim Eifert, Adjutant General of Florida.
Thank you. I'd like to thank our governor and the legislature of Florida for looking out for the citizens of our state and pushing so hard to establish this new Florida State Guard. As the governor mentioned, Florida is the 3rd most populous state in the nation, but we're ranked at the bottom, 53 out of 54 states and territories when comparing the size of our state civilian population to our National Guard. And as more and more people are drawn to our state every day, that ratio shrinks every day. This problem can only be corrected by decision makers at the national level to allocate additional force structure in the National Guard to Florida. The National Guard Bureau in Washington, D.C., however, has failed to produce the force structure allocation to our state that we desperately need to grow. So with great vision and foresight, our state's elected leaders have created this new force for good in Florida, the Florida State Guard. The Florida National Guard always remains ready to help during the most dire times for our citizens. Over the past couple of years, however, our soldiers and airmen have been stretched razor thin as a result of our responses to things like the pandemic, the hurricanes, and periods of civil unrest, while at the same time deploying around the globe supporting the federal government's national security requirements. In fact, over the last 30 years, the Florida National Guard has responded to over 90 state domestic emergency activations, totaling more than 1.5 million workdays. Nearly a third of those days occurred just in the last 2.5 years, supporting the state's COVID-19 response and multiple hurricanes. While we have never failed to respond to any mission for our state, this commitment comes with a real cost. That is the excessive wear and tear on our primarily part-time Florida National Guard warriors. This brand new Florida State Guard, a trained volunteer civilian workforce, is an ideal solution for our National Guard soldiers and airmen during domestic response operations. As directed in the Florida Statute 251.001, as the Adjutant General of the Florida National Guard, I will be the Commanding General of the Florida State Guard, subject at all times to the Governor as the Commander-in-Chief. The Adjutant General will be responsible for organizing, recruiting, training, equipping, managing, and disciplining of the Florida State Guard, And this new Florida State Guard Director, Chris Graham, will be my right-hand man, making it all happen. I am personally extremely grateful for Governor DeSantis' and the Florida State Legislature's support to our National Guard soldiers and airmen in recognizing this critical need and providing this new capability to help us respond to our citizens on Florida's worst day. We in the Florida National Guard look forward to assisting with the assembly of this welcome new tool in the Governor's Emergency Response Toolkit, the Florida State Guard. Thank you.
And Jim and the National Guard, when COVID hit, we would send National Guard to help with nursing homes. These other states were sending the sick patients into the nursing homes. We did the opposite. We prohibited sick patients from being sent back, but then we were providing PPE testing initially, then we provided the medication, all that other stuff. And so these National Guard, we'd have teams, they would go, and in Florida, it's like, this isn't like, we have, 500,000 people in this state. I mean, we've got a lot of long-term care facilities. And so you're talking about thousands of facilities, and we had these teams, and they would go, and then they also set up the first drive-through testing, I think, in the country, or the first one that actually worked, because I think some of the was, and so they actually brought the whole the head of the National Guard from Washington down to watch kind of what they were doing. So we were putting them all over the place with that, and then of course with COVID, they were also ready to go with the George Floyd riots. If that was going to happen in Florida, we were going to end that very quickly, and they were ready to go. So they're very versatile and very duty oriented. So I really think they've done a lot in the last couple years in particular, and this will be great to have some support beyond just their billets. Okay, you're going to hear from a fellow named Paul Hansen, who is now in the state of Florida, and he can give you a little bit about his background.
Thank you, Governor. My name is Paul Hansen. I'm a new Floridian. I just moved here a few months ago to take a work opportunity in our state's great hospitality industry. I moved here for many of the usual reasons: sunshine, winter baseball, and the opportunity to keep a little bit more of what I earn. But it's the governor's leadership that, for me, was the deciding factor, not just on this issue, but on a lot of things that we've seen over the past few years. When I saw his initial announcement related to the Florida State Guard, I knew I had to sign up. I don't consider myself prior service in the sense of having served in the regular military. I did not, but I did serve in the New York State Guard. And I saw firsthand the skills, the experience, and the patriotism of its members. Many joined in the wake of 9/11. I myself joined after seeing how the New York State Guard responded to Superstorm Sandy. It was devastating, and they performed quite honorably, and they worked very hard. As a soldier in the New York Guard, I participated in regular drills and training. I maintained a state of readiness, knowing that the next Sandy was always a possibility. State Guards are, as the governor noted, not unique. There's about half the states have them. But it is a uniquely American institution that exists within the framework of our federal system. The diverse skill sets and the backgrounds of the soldiers of State Guards, whether that's career-wise, culturally, or with respect to their prior military service, is a reflection, I believe, of what makes America great. A State Guard is a military organization, and as such, it needs a commander-in-chief who is willing to lead and to provide the resources that it needs in order to serve. Especially given Florida's hurricane-prone nature, the Florida State Guard will be a new resource to support recovery efforts in our local communities. On a personal level, I am excited by the opportunity to serve my new state. I would like to thank Governor DeSantis for his leadership in this very meaningful investment. God bless America, and God bless the free state of Florida. Thank you, sir.
All right, great job. Thanks for choosing Florida. And now, last but not least, we have our Florida Department of Veterans Affairs Director, Hammer Hartzell.
Florida-born, Florida native, Florida son. I enlisted in the Marine Corps in 1981 in Florida. When I retired in 2018, I came back home to my state to continue to serve, and I cannot be more proud, more honored, and have more respect than our Florida Commander-in-Chief, Governor Ron DeSantis. I'm blessed to speak on behalf of our 1.5 million veterans and their families, like this World War II veteran sitting right here in the front row. Thank you, sir, for your service. Thank you. As military members, we like leaders who solve problems. We like leaders who take an assessment of a situation. They look at what the wrong is. They look at what the right is. They reinforce success, and they don't throw the reserve against failure. Right? That's what our governor does for our state. He's demonstrated that over and over again in the last 3 years. He uses logic and reasoning to clearly and effectively communicate his commander's intent. He sees the problem. He says he knows what needs to be done with that problem, and then he issues orders and guidance to get it done, both to those who work for him directly, but also he gives guidance to the Florida legislative body. And I so appreciate what they do to fund what we're doing like today. Thank you so much for y'all. Appreciate y'all. Yeah. Our Florida veterans and their families respect our Commander-in-Chief, as I said, because of his leadership. Deep respect because he solves problems, he mitigates the problems that are affecting me and my family, you and your families. He cares. Things like law enforcement support. He saw what was happening in the rest of Florida, or rest of the nation, as he mentioned, and he said, that's not going to happen here. So he started on a path of leadership with commander's guidance and intent and said, let's make sure that doesn't happen. And it didn't happen here because of his leadership. Things like leading Florida through the COVID pandemic over the past several years, leading us not only in the health care battle that we had to fight, that we won in our state veterans nursing homes, better than other states, I believe, but he also led us through the economic, the workforce battlefield of COVID, through the families in school, kids in school, getting our nursing homes open before other states. That's effective leadership, and I really appreciate him for that. Things like maintaining a fiscally sound and strong state. I get to talk to my counterparts in the other 49 states who are also responsible for their veterans in their states, great Americans all across our nation, but they are envious of the fact that Florida has money. They're envious of the fact that we can fiscally support the things like a Florida Guard. They wish they could, I guarantee you. That's why more veterans are moving to Florida than any other state in the nation. We are the most veterans sought after state in the nation because of leadership and the things like why this Marine and why this gentleman here decided to come here. Also like standing up for Florida, standing up against centralized, I call it, government mandates, orders that aren't legally fully supported, right? Our governor makes the difference. He says, here's a problem, I assess it, I'm going to lead us through this issue. And again, veterans like that type of leadership. Amen. He also likes we like him because he leads us on border protection. You know, protecting our borders, because we understand as veterans what happens when you have an unsecure border. Maligned influencers will come in, and they will affect me and my kids and my grandkids for years to come. We need a secure border. The governor understands that. He leads us in that direction. Again, more reasons why veterans want to move here to Florida. Now he understands we have a current problem. That's what we're here for today. Our National Guard Bureau has under-resourced Florida with manpower, with structure, with dollars, people for many, many years. And it's not right. He knows it's not right. So what does the leader do? He addresses this situation, assesses it, and he takes action and issues orders. That's why we're here to create a Florida Guard. In the Florida Guard, when you look on the website, there's certain things they say you need to have in order to be a Florida Guard member. Things like love and devotion to our state. I like that's number one. Number two, a desire to help Florida's communities and its citizens to mitigate threats. Desire. Ready to step in quickly for when emergency strikes. Ready to step in. Not talking about, but ready. And then finally, to protect our state from disaster. We understand disaster in this state. Again, I'm born here, raised here, 1962 on. I understand disasters for our state. I've seen disasters around the world. We are going to be more ready, more prepared to address that because of our Florida Guard. I want to say the leader that has been directed, Director Graham, This Marine and I served together in combat in Fallujah, 2004, right? This Marine leader started in the same reserve unit that I started in when I was a young enlisted Lance Corporal, 3rd Force Reconnaissance. All right, so we have a recon background. I ran into him again in 2004 when he was a Joint Tactical Air Control Officer. He was calling in air support with AC-130 gunships, F-18s. He kept me alive and my Marines alive. Thank you. Thank you. All right. And the last thing, and I cleared this with my spouse of 39 years. Last thing I'm going to say is, 41 years ago, I raised my right hand to support and defend and to join and volunteer. All right? I'm ready. I have 11 more months of eligibility, all right, in the current statute. I'll raise my hand again and give all my weekends, all my vacation time, anything it takes. I'll be a private in the State Guard, and I'll love it. Thank you, sir.
All right. Hoorah. Good job. All right. You're World War II? You look good. I mean, seriously. 98? Oh, man, you look good. Good job. Well, we thank all our veterans, but we love the World War II generation. And one of the things I've said is, as time goes on, memories fade, and we're not going to let that happen in Florida. We're going to make sure everyone, the school kids, they're going to know, that we had folks save the world, and you were a part of that, so thank you.
Amen.
All right, well, I'm excited. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this. I mean, if even retired Major General wants to get in the thick of things here, I think we're going to see people coming out of the woodwork. It's going to be very, very good. So let's get with it. And with that, I can take a question or two. I've been asked that 100 different times. So, anyone have a question on the topic of the day? What I would say is this: why weren't they doing hearings about more energy? Why aren't they doing hearings about inflation? Why are they constantly beating this dead horse? Yes, we understand that. That was a year and a half ago. And let's focus on things that are concerning American people today and helping us get through this period here today. Well, I know. Well, but here's the thing. Yeah, I get, the D.C., New York media, they live in a bubble. They do not care about any of us out here in other parts, and they think this is like the most important thing. And then you look at these election results, and you have Republicans winning in South Texas on the border down there last night. So I think it's it's one thing to kind of get some policies wrong, but then it's another thing just have your head in the sand about what's going on in this country. And they're showing that they don't care about what you're going through at the gas pump. They don't care what you're going through at the grocery store or rent or all these other things that have skyrocketed since Biden took office. They're trying to divert attention away from that and focus on other things that they think will help mobilize their voter base. And that's just something that that they're free to do. But the American people are also free to send them packing this November, and that's what's going to happen. Elon Musk. So what I would say, I'm focused on 2022, but with Elon Musk, what I would say is, I welcome support from African Americans. What can I say? All right. Yes, ma'am. What's that? Oh, good. That's wonderful. That's great. Well, thank you for doing that. I know those flights are very, very important to a lot of people. Yes, ma'am. I think you have to just establish residency, but I mean that's not that difficult to do. I mean in Florida, if you have a place here, you can do it. We don't hunt people down about whether they're paying income taxes because we don't have income taxes. So you can come and do what you want, and so I think it'd be fine. But yeah, I think it's going to be Florida citizens of the state of Florida. I don't think there's going to be a requirement you have to have been a citizen for a certain amount of time. But if you come here, we want to do it. Yes, sir.
One of my questions is, or considerations for kind of an open-ended question, could you comment on, like you've done before, with the inculcation of our children with the ideology based in Marxism, and going back to foundational principles that could be passed on as a mission, that I see as a possible bridge?
Yeah, well, I think it's a huge issue, and I think parents have really woken up to this. And I can tell you, I have young kids, 5, 4, and 2, so my wife and I are very, very sensitive. But we create a school system, and with your tax dollars, and the purpose of that needs to be to educate our kids, not to indoctrinate them with ideology. And that means that parents have a fundamental role when it comes to directing the education and the upbringing of their kids. Now, that is under debate in our society right now. You have some people that say, parents shouldn't be involved and that they should kind of butt out, that they don't know what they're doing. And first of all, I can tell you this, you talk to most teachers, if you ask them, do you want your students' parents involved or not, almost all of them will say they want them involved because the student is going to perform better when the parents take an interest in what's going on. And the parents are neglectful, those are the harder cases in order to generate good performance amongst those students. And so the only people that don't want the parents involved are the people that think the parents are an impediment to their indoctrination efforts. And so in Florida, this is not up for debate. We are a parents' rights state, and we're happy about that. And parents have every right to be involved in their kids' education. They have the right to go to school board meetings and petition the school board members for a redress of their grievances. The Biden administration mobilized the FBI to look at school board meetings to try to intimidate parents as one of the most disgraceful things that I've seen. They don't care. They're not really focused on some of the things where they clearly have dropped the ball on that are really core law enforcement. But when it comes to those parents, man, they got to get out there because they're worried about the parents speaking the truth. And so we're for parents' rights. Now that involves a lot of things. For example, you can't force mask these kids with the parents' decision on that. And you have to have schools open and all these other things that we've done well over the last 2 years. But if you look at some of the ideologies, we said in Florida, we're not doing critical race theory in K through 12 schools. You're not going to have to pay tax dollars and have that tax money go to teaching kids to hating this country and to hating each other based on race. That is inappropriate, and we're not going to let it happen. And we now have given parents the wherewithal to be able to hold the school districts accountable if they don't follow the state standards. And we have a handful that whatever the law is, they think that they are effectively above the law. We saw it with the forced masking, and we're likely to see it with other things. And so it was important that the legislature provided, that recourse, because we can put the standards in place. We can say this is what it is, but if they don't follow it, what's the recourse of it? And now we have recourse. We also did the bill for parents' rights in education. Elementary school kids should not have woke gender ideology injected into the curriculum. That is inappropriate. That's not what we want in our school system. And why we're even focusing on those things as a society, it just shows you some people want us to take our eye off the ball. I think particularly our elementary schools, their mission needs to be to teach reading and writing and math and science and history and learn about these things, and parents deserve that protection. How parents want to handle that, is different, but it used to be something those are things that the parents would have discussions with. And I know a lot of parents, I look at my kids, are so young, that's not even in the realm of possibility to be going into some of this stuff. And so there is a concerted effort around this country, though, to do that with the young kids. And so we had to stand up and say no. And you know what? There were some companies that didn't like that, based in California. But at the end of the day, we're not letting companies in California govern the state of Florida. We the people, are governing the state of Florida. But hold on. But within that, it's fine to say, we don't want, this niche ideology of like critical race theory. No one would have thought that would have been something that would have been appropriate for K-12 schools. Even 5 years ago, that would have been. So it's fine to do it. But it's also okay. Well, what do you want to do? And of course, focus on those core things. We want the kids to read at grade level, particularly by third grade. If you read at grade level by third grade, the chance that you drop out of school goes down dramatically. If you don't read at grade level by third grade, the chance that you don't make it through high school goes up dramatically. And so that's a clear focus in Florida. We've put a lot of emphasis and resources on that, and also the other key things. But one of the things we've done in Florida is we've put a renewed emphasis on American civics. Teaching kids what it means to be an American, teaching them about the Constitution, teaching them about the founding of the country. And you have some places in this country that want to take down statues of people like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington and even Lincoln and Teddy Roosevelt. In Florida, we embrace our history. We want people to understand. You teach about all aspects of history. That's important, and that's actually required in our statutes, that all different aspects of history are taught. But we're not going to jettison the founding principles of this country. We're going to embrace them, and we understand that if we give kids the proper foundation of understanding what it means to be an American, understanding why would people, have enlisted, to go to Europe in World War II or the Pacific or all these other things. Even in my generation, those of us who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, it was volunteer. People wanted to do it. And why would people be willing to do that and put their lives on the line? And I think it's because, America, as it was conceived, is a special place. It was different than other countries that had come before it. And, all of that stuff that makes us, I think, unique is in flux now. I think that there's a lot of debates about first principles, which is part of the reason we have so many divisions in the country. Now, if we do our job and just give people that foundation when they leave our school system, I don't know what they're going to do when they get out. I don't know where they'll gravitate towards in terms of some of these things, but at least they're not just going to be like listless vessels without having that foundation. They're going to understand. They're going to have to take, in Florida, we're implementing exams for seniors like immigrants have to do to become citizens, a citizenship exam. We're going to have other things for teachers so that they get bonuses if they go through civics training and boot camp and all these other things that we've created. We have a big civics and debate initiative that's gotten really, really popular. So we're going to continue to do that. So I just think it's important because you're going to have students that go into a wide variety of endeavors. Some will go straight into the workforce out of high school, and quite frankly, the certifications we're providing now with these vocational endeavors, these kids are making good money right away. So that's a great pathway, and we want to embrace that. Others will go to state college, some will go to university, some will go into medicine or business or whatever, and there's going to be a wide variety. But everyone who ends up, when they turn 18, they're going to be required to discharge the duties of being an American citizen. And so we can't neglect that aspect of it, because in reality, that's the one thing that is going to be constant across the entire population of people that we're graduating. And I know people that would come to like an American Legion Hall understand that. And I remember they used to do the debate program with the American Legion for the scholarships. And so it's very, very important. But that's really what we want to focus on in the state of Florida. And I think the fact that we're doing education, not indoctrination, the fact that we're focusing on civics, all these other things, 10, 20 years from now, there's going to be a huge difference between states like Florida and these other states, because some of these other states, the school systems are just devolving into ideology factories, and that's really what they're trying to do. So they're trying to get people to adopt a certain worldview, but they're not really teaching them how to think. They're not really teaching them how to make sense of a lot of the things that's going around them. And so we're taking, I think, the approach that almost everyone would have agreed was the proper approach for most of this country's history. It's only recently, with the woke ideology unleashed on American society and in businesses and all these other places, that people think somehow that's good. Following woke indoctrination in our schools, that is a road to ruin for this country, and we're not going to let it happen in Florida. Yeah, no, we're happy to do it, and at the end of the day, what we've done has helped keep our community safer. The fact of the matter is, if we had embraced a lot of what was happening over the last few years, if we had attacked law enforcement, cut budgets and all that stuff, you would have had way more crime. That's just the reality. And it would have ended up spiraling out of control like it is in so many of these parts of the country. And so these things really do matter. It matters to be able to support folks who are wearing the uniform. It matters that you hold offenders accountable and actually put them in prison when they do things, and not just release them back on the street so they can victimize other people. So we've been right on that. We're going to continue to be right on that. But it's not just a kind of an esoteric debate. I mean, how those policies shake out have the impact about whether people feel safe in their communities or not. And they talk about people moving to Florida, and I've always said, like some governors like begging people to come to their state. Like, I'm happy with who we have. I'm not asking anyone to come. But I will say that people that come, if you talk to some of these real estate agents, they'll say, people aren't even talking about the taxes because we've always had lower taxes. That's not anything new. They will talk about being a free state, some of these other things. But one of the things they always talk about is feeling safe. They feel safer in Florida than they feel in some of these other areas that have really gone downhill from there. Yes, ma'am. One more. Right. Well, look, I mean, this is an official announcement, but I would just say that you do have individual candidates have websites and stuff, and you can do that. You don't have to do it through a central party thing. Yep. Yeah. That's right.
So maybe something could be done that is not exported?
Well, I think so. The question is, so we do phosphate production here in the state of Florida, not that far from here actually, and it's an important industry. What's happening is the cost of fuel is going up so much that it's driving things like ammonia through the roof. And so it had been pretty constant for years and years and years what the fertilizer producers would end up doing. Now it's spiked. I mean, it's not just gone up like 20%. I mean, it's like quadrupled. It is unbelievable. And so what people are saying, and this is a global market, it's not anything that certainly one state could control, but even one country perhaps. But what they're saying is the increase in that is going to cause the fertilizer to go even higher, and it is going to make it so that you're not able to harvest all the food that we're traditionally used to harvesting. Now, will that mean shortages here in the United States? It could, but I think the people that are going to be hit most by this are going to be people that are very poor in third world countries. And so think about it. you have John Kerry and Biden and saying no fossil fuels. This is so bad. They're trying to kneecap the industry. They're contributing to the spike, in prices. And the result may be, if this comes to pass, it's going to be a lot of people who aren't even going to be able to access enough food for subsistence, and that's going to be very devastating. But it will be a predictable consequence about what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do to say that we should just use windmill and solar. Like, look, Florida, we have a lot of solar, and we're fine with that. I mean, people are able to do it, but that is not enough to power a nation like ours, or a global economy with all the other things going on in other parts of the world. Now, one of the things I think the lesson from COVID and some of the stuff we're seeing now is, maybe we need less reliance on some of the stuff being produced overseas, and we need to produce more of it here in the United States. But be that as it may, the reality is that, this stuff's coming from all over the world that go into this, and you're seeing some disruption. So, look, I don't want to be alarmist about it, but I mean, you talk to people that know, and people are very concerned about what could happen going into the future, and some of it will obviously impact us. I mean, as much as COVID, there was some stuff. I mean, there was no toilet paper, some of the stuff, whatever. Now Biden, they really screwed up with that baby formula plant that they shut down and just kind of let it sit there without it. So that's caused this big baby formula shortage, which has been really difficult for a lot of mothers. I mean, we have young kids, so we are very sensitive, my wife and I, but, when babies are crying and they're hungry, and not every woman can breastfeed, so it is something that's really, really significant. It causes a lot of stress if you don't have that in the house. So that's been a disaster. But now we're facing potentially having broader shortages of a lot of different stuff. And I can tell you, I'm 43, I've not lived through that as an American, and yet you could potentially be seeing that. So that's a huge, huge problem. And I think what's going to happen with some of the stuff going beyond that in these poorer countries, you can see some really, really big time problems. And so it didn't need to be this way, obviously, yet here we are. And in Florida, what we've tried to do is be part of the solution. So we, for example, have increased the stuff coming into our ports significantly over the past 6 months. You saw these ships just sitting there in Long Beach and in the West Coast. We actually had a company from Singapore. They had their company in Long Beach, their American company. They moved it to Jacksonville, the port of Jacksonville, because they saw what was happening. We've done other things. So okay, that's my hook. I wish I could say that's my hook. I got to stay on schedule, but we will be back soon to Pinellas County, and Madeira Beach is a phenomenal place. I'll tell you, you could do so much worse if you're coming to visit and you want a beautiful place to be. So thank you all. God bless. Yep.